Department of Social Sciences, Shri Ved Prakash Sharma, dear colleagues, participants and students, a warm good afternoon. Today we have come together on this online platform for a distinguished lecture on the topic COVID-19 and the state of state finances. Before proceeding further, I am going to give a brief overview of the topic today. It is a well-known fact that COVID-19 has hit the globe in the past few months, and India has remained one of the worst affected countries economically. India's GDP contracted by 24% in the first quarter of this fiscal year, and for the first time, the states have not received their legally mandated share of compensation in tax revenue. It is nothing short of a crisis in the arena of fiscal federalism. COVID-19 has impacted two things, lives and livelihoods. For instance, more than 85 lakh people are affected with the virus and 1.27 lakh people have already succumbed to the virus. Further, unemployment rate shoot up above 26% in April 2020. According to Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, estimates more than 12 crore workers lost their job in April 2020. Government has been spending hugely on saving COVID-19 impacted lives, which resulted in heavy fiscal burden. Further, the lockdown resulted in drying up of tax and non-tax revenue. At the national level, GST collection declined by around 35% as compared to the previous year. In case of Punjab, gross GST revenue collection for the period April to July has declined by around 37%. The amount of compensation due to Punjab for the period April to June 2020 was rupees 5,669 crore, which stood unpaid till August 2020. The state governments are facing a challenging situation of managing state economy in the absence of share of GST compensation. The states are now depending on the options given by the center involving borrowing funds to meet any deficit in the compensation. Therefore, fiscal stress on states has become a new buzzword in the eco-political arena of India. To have deeper insights on the issue and understand the fiscal crisis faced by the states, we are honored to have with us a renowned academician and an accomplished policymaker, Honorable Minister for Finance and Coir, Government of Kerala, Dr. T.M. Thomas Isaac. Welcome, sir. Now I request Shri Ved Prakash Sharma, Head of the Department of Social Sciences, to briefly tell us about the academic and political journey of our distinguished speaker. Ved Prakash, sir.
Honorable Finance Minister, Government of Kerala, Dr. T.M. Thomas Isaac, respected Principal Dr. Khushvinder Kumar, Chief, distinguished participants, and dear colleagues and students. I welcome you all today in this online event. I am honored to introduce today's speaker, although he does not need any introduction since he is one of the most dynamic leaders in India in contemporary times. Dr. Thomas is currently holding Finance Ministry in Government of Kerala. He has been elected 4 times to Assembly. As a Finance Minister, he has taken various innovative initiatives for the welfare of his state. Besides, he has also remained at the forefront in national level debates, and more recently, he actively participated in GST Council for protecting the rights of the state and has provided constructive suggestions on strengthening fiscal federalism in India. Before joining active politics, he has earned credentials as a leading academician. He has earned his PhD in economics from a renowned academic institution, namely Center for Development Studies, Trivandrum, which is academically affiliated to Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and is one of the best center of economics in India. He has taught at CDS Trivandrum for a period of almost 2 decades, and he is still associated with his alma mater as an honorary fellow. During his academic career, he has supervised many PhD students. He has also published a number of articles on economics, planning, and politics in the leading regional, national, and international periodicals. He has also presented lectures and papers in national and international conferences and seminars. We are honored to have you on our online platform, sir. Now I request Dr. Maninder Deep Chima for further proceedings.
Thank you, Vedprakash sir. Now I invite our worthy principal, Dr. Khushvinder Kumar, who has always encouraged and motivated us to organize academic talks on the issues having relevance to the welfare of society and economy at large. Sir, I request you to formally welcome and invite our honorable speaker. Principal, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Maninder. I feel immensely honored while welcoming the Honorable Minister for Finance, State of Government of Kerala, Dr. T.M. Thomas Isaac. Welcome, sir, to this online platform of Multani Modi College, Patiala. For last many days, we were thinking of some platform and some issue, and the topic which we zeroed out was the state of state finances. As we have witnessed in last few months, many state heads expressed their concern over the state of state finances and the relationship between the state and the union government. The Punjab and Kerala were among those states. We find it appropriate to request to a person who is in the policy making and have a academic hold on the issue. Thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation and enlightening all the participants on the present topic of COVID-19 and the state of state finances. Welcome, sir. And now the platform is open for you. Welcome, Dr. T.M. Thomas Isaac.
Thank you, Dr. Khushvinder Kumar, Dr. Maninder Deepachima, and Sri Vedprakash Sharma, and other dignitaries participating in this webinar, and dear students. Now, I shall not bore you with numbers, statistics, but I shall try to delineate the logic of COVID, its economic impact, and how should a government, whether the center or state, respond to it. So this is the broad theme I shall try to develop. So let me start with the nature of this disease. Already, Dr. Maninder has reflected on that to a certain level. This is an epidemic. What does it mean? It means it spreads very fast. And its reproduction rate, RO rate, is fairly high. That is, suppose you get I got the disease, all right. I had been down with the COVID. In fact, I'm recovering from that. So if I get that I got the disease, to how many people shall I transfer the disease, spread the disease? Now, if it is more than one, every person who gets disease, say, contaminates more than one person, then the spread will be very rapid. Suppose it's 2 and so on, it will result in exponential growth. Suppose it's 2, one person sick, next step would be 4, next will be 8, 16, 32, Like that, exponential growth it will be. Suppose it is 1, then the spread will be slow. Suppose it does not spread from one to another, then there is no spread at all. Now, nature of COVID is that it spreads very fast. The RO rate is definitely more than 1. In some countries, nearing 2, but definitely more than 1. And therefore, a key feature of this disease epidemic is that it spreads very fast. Second, but it has no medicine, it has no vaccine so far. All over, pharmaceutical companies and countries are trying to say, find a vaccine to prevent the spread. But so far, they are on the horizon, but none has been discovered. So, how do you prevent the spread? That's a key question. There is only one way. You keep physical distance. I don't say social distance because I don't like that word. In India, with this caste system, saying social distance, it has very bad connotations. So in Kerala, we always say, keep the physical distance from each other. You wear mask, you use sanitize your hands, and keep physical distance from people. That's all. There's no other way. There's no other solution. So the preventive medicine for the COVID means you distance from each other. Okay, that's my first point. This is all. This is the nature of the disease. But then what is the nature of our economy? Our nature of our economy, modern economy, is that it is increasingly integrated with the rest. The states in India are integrated with each other. We purchase commodities from one state, sell to others. Kerala is an extreme case where we say export around 65 to 70% of our domestic production and import around 70 to 75% of our consumption. Now it is very different from, say, Punjab economy. You produce food grains. We don't produce food grains. We produce only 15% of our food requirement. We grow commercial crops, which are all exported out. And we purchase our grain from Punjab and Andhra and so on. So, our economies are getting, regional economies are getting increasingly integrated. And with globalization, this is true at a global level. All countries are now integrated with each other. If you take a television today and take out all its components, and if all components begins to speak to you in the language of the country in which it was produced, you'll have a Babel's Tower. Each component is produced in one country or as a global assembly line. And all the product components are brought together and assembled. So it's a global assembly line. So there is huge expansion of trade. Also capital. Capital moves from one country to another. And also migration taking place large scale from one country to another. So the nature of modern economy is that it is increasingly integrated. You can almost find a self-sufficient country or self-sufficient village, let alone. So now we have the C. You have the nature of the economy, which is increasingly integrated with each other. Then you have the nature of the disease by which you have to distance from each other. And that creates a tremendous conflict and disastrous impact upon the economy. I hope you understand what I say. The nature of the disease disrupts modern economy. Is true for advanced economies or less developed countries like ours. Everywhere, this disease is a highly disruptive impact on the economy. What would happen? Since the industries are all integrated, it depends upon the import of raw material from other country or other states. For example, let's take commodity which is in most in demand today, medicine. The pharmaceutical industry all over the globe is dependent upon import or raw material from China. And all this production have been stuck in China. And world trade has shrunk absolutely. Therefore, you don't get raw material, and therefore you are forced to cut production. I know so many factories in my state where we are waiting for the machinery which has been ordered, and one doesn't know when these machineries will come. Because the manufacturing has been disrupted in Germany or China, other countries, and therefore you don't know when it is going to come, and therefore you don't know when you can start the factory. But within the factory itself, our own country, our own states, there are lockouts. India government itself locked down the country for 2 months. Now we are in the unlock phase 5. We are not completely unlocked ourselves. Colleges are not open, schools are not open. So you find there is a lockdown of the economy that takes place. So what happens when the economy is locked down? When the economy is locked down, people lose the job. They are locked out from job. When they lose the job, they lose their income. There is a decline in the income of everybody who is employed. Okay, that is the impact. There is lockdown, complete lockdown or partial lockdown, etc., etc. There is loss of income. When you have loss of income, then you cannot buy. As we all economists know, demand is desire backed by purchasing power. See? And you lose your purchasing power, you can't buy anything. And therefore, you find that consumption demand for goods for consumption goes down. Okay? I hope it's very clear, very simple. That the economy is locked down. Because the economy is locked down, the unemployment increases all over. Unemployment increases, and then the income goes down, and then you cannot buy anything. Therefore, consumption demand in the economy goes down. So you find stocks being piling up in the consumption goods sector, and then investment goes down. Why do you invest more? Because there is a demand. And now you find the consumption demand going down. The industrialists, they want to cut down on their investment. So you will find the investment demand also going down. So your consumption demand has gone down. Then investment demand has gone down. So what is aggregate demand? You are postgraduate students of economics. The aggregate demand in the economy consists of consumption demand plus investment demand and plus what? Net exports, okay, and world trade has collapsed. So what you have is a situation of collapse of aggregate demand in the economy. And when there is aggregate demand collapse, you read your Keynes has taught us that the overall production also will go down. The economy will decelerate. Economy will be pushed into a recession. The production, the phenomenon of production declining is called recession. It's not just rate of increase of production going down, but you have a situation where the actual absolute production itself declining. For example, now it is all understood that in the first, say, quarter of the financial year, Indian economy shrunk by 24%. It's huge amount of shrinkage. It means the production in the country decreased by 24%, one quarter. Well, it is similar, but it's not that sharp. Say in other developed countries, 10 to 15%. So you find today the world economy, IMF says, will decline by around 5 to 10%. That's what this. Indian economy, India government says, will decline by, if you take the whole year of 2021, by 10%. Absolute decline in India economy. Nobody exactly knows how much it will be, but we know the first quarter in the Indian economy, the production, total value of goods and services produced in the economy declined by 24%. So you have what is called a recession. We are facing recession. So this is the economic impact. When you have recession, production goes down, income goes down, and unemployment increases. The prices fall because nobody is buying things, prices fall. This is what typical production is, a recession is. So as a result of COVID, there's a worldwide recession. Now, this is not the first time recession takes place in a country or in the globe. This occurs every once in a decade or 6, 7 months, and we call it business cycle. In fact, our country, the production was declining already. It was around 8% in 2000, say at the time of demonetization. But since demonetization, the whole country was slipping into a recession slowly. Every quarter, the rate of increase in the production declined to around 3.2% the last quarter just before COVID. So already economy was declining, then comes the COVID, the lockdown, total collapse in aggregate demand and production. You have a recession. Now the question is, when the economy faces a recession, how do you respond? What is the policy to be adopted? Now we are discussing about the policy of the government. How should a government address this? Now, you students of economics, there is nothing to debate about it. The recession takes place because of lack of demand. And what is the aggregate demand in the economy? You have consumption demand plus investment demand plus net export. There's one more factor, I didn't say it at that time, that is government expenditure. Of course, some people, when there's a consumption demand, they'll add consumption demand of the government. Then they say investment, they would add the investment demand of the government. But you can treat it separately. Consumption plus investment plus net export plus government expenditure. So private investment, private consumption, and net exports have declined. So how should policymaker address the situation? It was Keynes who said, now in such a time, government should spend more. Before Keynes, those of you who have read general theory of employment, please look at the first chapter. You have Keynes demolishing the pre-Keynesian fallacies. The most important fallacy is when the income of a person declines, then rational action of the person would be to reduce consumption, his expenditure. It will be foolish. When you lose your job, you borrow and spend more and more. You may go bankrupt. You may become chronically indebted. Therefore, individuals, it's a wise decision. You only spend according to your income. If your income declines, you reduce your expenditure. But Keynes said this is a fallacy. If government also begins to spend like that, you will have a collapse. Because government, they can raise, unlike individuals, can raise money in many ways. You can borrow from the general market. You can just print money. You and I cannot print money. Government can print money. Government print money and we accept it as money. That paper is intrinsically worth nothing. It's because government has said it's money, we accept it as money. So government is not like individuals. Government has no financial constraint. If it wants, it can print money, it can borrow. Now it's old-fashioned to say print money. Government prints only 1 rupee note, which is very rare. It's a Reserve Bank which prints. But government can borrow from Reserve Bank. Okay, that's what I mean when I say print money, not literally government print money. So you borrow from the Reserve Bank. Yeah, that's what, say, for example, Bank of England said. Bank of England declared after COVID, if government needs some money, please come. We will give you unlimited ways and means facility. That is to say, in India, government needs some money immediately. For example, every state is permitted. They have no money. Kerala is permitted 1,000, now nearly 2,000 rupees, 2,000 crores of rupees. You can automatically take it from the Reserve Bank. It is not called borrowing. It is short term. It has to be repaid immediately also. So it's so-called ways and means for temporary borrowing facility. If you go beyond the ways and means, you go into overdraft. If you go beyond the overdraft limit, they say you don't repay their overdraft by 21 days now, then your treasury will be closed by Reserve Bank. Closed means they don't come to lock it up. They will not allow you to transact money. So ways and means accommodation is given by the Reserve Bank. Bank of England said, we have unlimited ways and means for British government. They can borrow indefinitely, any amount. America, US of America, they said the Reserve Bank will buy, Federal Reserve will buy bonds directly from corporations. So these are the ways. When recession occurs, before Keynes, when recession occurs, government tax decline. When tax decline, everybody used to say, now government revenue has come down, therefore don't spend, cut down your expenditure. When government expenditure is so cut, aggregate demand will fall further. Aggregate demand consists of consumption plus investment plus net export demand plus government expenditure. Now first three has come down. And government revenue has come down, therefore government spend less, then overall demand will collapse, recession will become worse. Therefore, Keynes said, you have contra-cyclical spending. When production goes down, recession sets in, government must have deficit. And even greater the deficit in the recession, larger should be the deficit. When the employment is picking up, economy is growing, and inflation is taking place, government should not have deficit. It should have surplus economy. So whether you have surplus or deficit, there is nothing inherently good and bad. It would all depend upon the actual context. That's what Keynesianism is. So you have a recession. So what should government do? What should be government policy? Government should step up expenditure. It doesn't have revenue. Just borrow. Bank or Reserve Bank, and then government deficit will go up. That's all right. If government spends more, then aggregate demand will pick up. When government spends more, money will reach more in the hands of the people who will start to buy things. So the proper government response is increase the government deficit and expenditure, pump in money. Okay, now that is one. We are logically going forward. The nature economy, integrated. Then you have COVID, disruptive. And therefore you have recession. And in a recession, my key argument is government policy primarily must increase expenditure. Now there is Reserve Bank. Reserve Bank, what it should do? It should reduce interest so that people feel like investing more. When say the interest rate goes high, the cost of investment goes up, and people cut down investment. When investment, say, in the interest goes down, you feel attracted to increase your investment. So you have two policy instruments. One is fiscal policy, how much government should spend. Other is monetary policy, how much money supply should increase, what should be the interest rate. So now theory, economic theory, it is very clear. When recession takes, fiscal policy should push expenditure, increase deficit, and monetary policy should emerge some water. And monetary policy should increase the money supply and decrease the interest. And Reserve Bank has been doing this. They have been, last time, just this quarter, they did not reduce the interest. But otherwise, they have been reducing the interest. Interest have been brought by 2.5%. They have also increased the money supply, say reducing the cash reserve and liberalizing the lending programs and so on. So monetary policy has been expansive. But monetary policy is not sufficient. Now repo rate is less than 3%, 3% or more. In America and so on, the interest rate is 0. In Japan, it's negative. If you put money into the bank will direct an interest from you. That's a negative interest. So once you reach there, you cannot do anything with the monetary policy. So after beyond some level, monetary policy becomes ineffective. Therefore, my argument is it is very important that your fiscal policy is a complementary to the monetary policy. Now, my criticism against the central government is they have been very conservative. The recession, decline in production is 24%. According to IMF, actual additional budgetary spending for the stimulus package is just 1% here. Others are all saying that banks have money, you go to the bank will lend you. Okay, that's all. Hey, MSME people, you can go to the bank will lend you. Government doesn't have to give any money to the bank. Or all that you have budgeted in the speech, you have budgeted in your annual budget. Well, spending that, it's the most timid stimulus package in the world. There are 3 types of countries. One is developed countries. They have been spending free, every one of them. You go to America, US, why did Trump get so much vote? Let me tell you one thing. He has been helicoptering money to everybody's pocket. You see, anybody who loses a job, government gives you money. Not unemployment allowance, versus the salary that you lost. The same is for Britain. US can do that. I am not saying India government do that. US can do that because if they print the dollar, the world will take that dollar. Yeah? Everybody thinks dollar is as good as gold. So everybody, they only have to print dollar and dollar more money. It gets absorbed in the global economy. India cannot print not like that. There's a limit. Therefore, I won't say you spend like the developed countries, etc. No, that's not my argument. But you have developed countries that are addressing the recession boldly by very bold large fiscal stimulus. Then there are least developed countries. We have not been hearing about them, low developing countries. Not India. India is considered emerging economy. But many countries, African countries, some of the South Asian countries, are considered least developed countries. Their exports have all fallen. Therefore, they are all facing big debt crisis. So much so, their education is disrupted, people are hungry, global hunger index have gone up, real calamity. Therefore, even IMF is normally, IMF is very, very, very sad. Miserly people. Every time you want some money from IMF, they put so many conditions on you. They are the most conservative financial institution in the world. Even this IMF got so pity about this least developed countries. They said, we'll print some notes of ourselves. IMF has currency. It's called SDRs. Okay, you study it in international trade, international finance. When IMF was set up, many people thought IMF would have an international currency. America didn't like the idea of international currency because now their dollar is international currency. Just like Indian government can print any amount of money, American can print any amount of dollar and spend it across the globe. The US didn't want want international currency. Well, Keynes had an idea. Keynes wanted Banco, international currency. Anyway, when IMF was set up, it was said that they could print SDR. They didn't print SDR. You don't have SDR notes. But uh, the money would be given, it would become quota of the IMF, a share in the IMF, which you can use to raise international loan and so on. So they said we will increase the quota so that these poor countries may have some money, some fund. But Trump vetoed it. It doesn't cost anything to Trump here. he also would get, he would be the biggest beneficiary of SDRs because SDRs are distributed among countries depending upon their share quota. But Trump vetoed it. India would have got some 2 lakh crores of rupees in SDR. India government also joined to veto it. Some money going to the poor countries free because they cannot pay anything, they cannot print their money. Well, even that was denied. So poor, least developed countries are worst hit. But then there is the middle income countries, the emerging economies like India, Brazil, South Africa, Russia, whole Southeast Asian countries. So among these emerging countries, India has the worst stimulus package. That is something unacceptable. I'm not saying that India is doing, not performing like US of America, but we should spend as much as what Brazil does or other emerging economies are doing. So you have a central government who is very reluctant to spend. All economists I know, you name who is who Indian economics, except for some so-called advisors of India government. Who is of Indian economy? Everybody says, say yesterday was Abhijit Banerjee stating the spend, have deficit financing, borrow and spend. Then give money to everybody. This is again transfer. You have C. Rangarajan in Madras School of Mathematics, School of Economics. He gave a lecture day after day for yesterday. Yesterday it was there is the economic time, no business line. Today's business line. It is the headline in business line. But he says he was very conservative. Before he became the governor of the Reserve Bank, India government monetized its debt. That's to say, India government, when it has deficit, borrowed directly from the Reserve Bank. That is called monetizing your debt. You increase the money supply, you borrow directly from the Reserve Bank. Rangarajan stopped it. He said, the government also should be subjected to market discipline. And therefore, it is who said government cannot borrow from the Reserve Bank, but it should borrow from the market. So if government is not doing well, the market will say you have to pay a higher price. There will be some restrictions on government. And as part of the reforms since 1991, we accepted this reform. So he was instrumental. And in his Chennai lecture, he was saying, spend 2% more of the GDP, stimulus package. But I don't think India government is going to do that. So what would be the result? The result would be that our economy will be very slow to recover. Lot of medium, small, and micro enterprises will never recover. See, Now you find in the economy there is no money. Small enterprises sell in the local economy. People don't buy, therefore they close up. It is not that after few months or few years, government, the economy picks up, all these people, small units will folded up, will get resurrected. No, take demonetization. See, the day demonetization was declared, the night, 9 o'clock, I called a press conference in my office. So I think I was the first to have a press conference against demonetization. My press conference was around 9:30 in my office. I told, this is crazy. That's what I said. This is crazy. This just not done. That's to say, we are following neoliberal policies. What is the essence of neoliberal policy? Is Milton Man's monetarism. What is monetarism? Monetarism tells you, you don't play with money. You keep money, stock of money in the economy as a constant proportion of your GDP. Don't follow Keynes. Increase the money supply, decrease the money supply. Don't do that. That's the lesson that Milton Friedman learned from his monumental work on the monetary history of United States. So monetary theory, monetarism, not monetary theory, monetarism tells that you don't play with money. You keep it as constant proportion. Here is ardent advocates of monetarism, neoliberal, not playing with money, just moving the money from the economy. There is nothing straight there that the whole economy will collapse. So it was said, okay, you pull out the money. After a few months, the money will come back, and then things will be back okay. Okay, money is like blood to your body, what your blood is to your body. You suck out your blood from your body and then re-inject it after a few days. So still you'll be dead here. You will not resurrect yourself because blood has come back to your body. Similarly, you find most of the MSME sector, which are closed up, did not wake up again. That's why the rate of growth of the economy, which was 8%, declined quarter after quarter to 3.2, and then came the COVID, the economy collapsed. So you don't intervene now, what might happen is you are going to harm your economy indefinitely. So I think it's a very, very bad policy. Now it's getting to be 45 minutes, 48 minutes, so 10 minutes I'll stop. And I don't come to the states, I'm still with the center. So in India, the government consists of two parts. There is central government, there are these 28 states and union territories. It is supposed to be a union of states. Okay. So we have states. So state governments also spend, central government also spend. State government spend around 60% of the total government expenditure in India. The central government spend around 40%. Okay, that's the situation. But central government mobilizes around 60% of the total tax revenue, and state government mobilizes only 40% of tax revenue. Therefore, there is this vertical imbalance between the revenues and expenditure of the state government, which can be balanced only by transferring money from the center to state, which is the function of finance commissions. So center transfers some money to state government. And if so, and second, if state government wants to borrow, it has to get the permission of the center. Without the permission, states can borrow. Now with GST has come, state government's GST revenue also depends upon what central government decides, the rate of tax and so on. Now we were all very unwilling to go into GST because we are going to lose our taxation power. But then the central government said every year will guarantee 14% growth in in the GST revenue for 5 years. Our VAT tax was increasing only by 10%. So it looked very attractive. At least for 5 years, you're going to go with 14% increase. Suppose you don't, the GST revenue does not increase by 14%, then what happened? Then they said, we will compensate you for the loss. So now COVID has come. What has happened? GST revenue has collapsed. People are not buying things. States revenue has collapsed. But central government is saying, we won't give you the full compensation now. He'll give the full compensation only after COVID is over in 22. The state government cannot borrow without the permission of the center. And therefore, the state governments are forced to cut expenditure. At a time when the need for expenditure is increasing, not only theoretically, the Keynesian policy, but actually the pressure. For example, Reserve Bank, I hope that's only reading list I would propose to you, has just recently State of the State Finances, as their annual report of the state finances has been published. And this year's state finances deal with impact of COVID. And impact of COVID, they said, is a collapse of revenue, but health expenditure is ballooning. Central government does not run any hospital. The state government runs. And in my state, unlike other states in India, we have focused, we have spent more and more on hospital and education. It's not now. It has been so for long. So half our budget is for education and healthcare. Say all our primary health centers have now OP in the morning and in the evening. Each one of them has at least 3 doctors, lab, pharmacy, and so on. We have been spending in the COVID time. We are setting it up. We are spending upon huge amount of money, 4,000 crores, on increasing our tertiary and secondary health sector. We have been spending heavily on education. All the classrooms are digitalized. The teachers teach in the schools. Teachers use internet connectivity, LCD projector, and laptop to teach. And we are spending huge amount of money, again around 3,000 crores in the last 5 years, to build up the school buildings and so on. So health expenditure is ballooning. Secondly, people have lost their income. In Kerala, there is tremendous pressure. People are very organized. Therefore, they would demand. Now we have lost the job, give us food. So, do you know what I've been doing? We have free ration. We don't take money from anybody, except for the APL, 2 rupees per kilo. Every month, a free kit of grain, not grains, of pulses, sugar, tea, condiments are given to every household. It costs some nearly 1,000 rupees, 1,000 crores rupees. So you have rice and condiments, you don't go hungry. You can eat. That is guaranteed to everybody. We don't have income transfer, that is too costly for us. But 55 lakh people receive pension payment of 1,400 rupees a month. Almost everybody who's over the age of 60 has this income transfer, monthly income transfer. And that's something pretty good here, some 15,000. India government thinks of payment of transfer of 6,000 rupees. So there's a huge expenditure taking place. We have been sending money to, for example, consumption loan to all APL, BPL families. And this period we have given nearly 2,000 crores of consumption loan. We have very powerful network of women self-help groups. Therefore, it's very easy to manage money from the banks through the self-help group to women. And now online classes are the rule of the day. And therefore, what we are doing is we are providing laptops for every child, not free. They have to repay in 3 months' time, 3 years' time. So it's also a loan, upfront loan. Interest is borne by the state government in both cases. Therefore, you find the government expenditure is increasing very rapidly. Revenues have shrunk, and central government refused to compensate. So this is a very difficult situation. Very difficult situation. Many state governments have already cut their expenditure. Some state governments don't pay the full salary, and so on and so forth. The payments to small firms, etc., by government stops. So if government expenditure shrinks, then what happens? The economic collapse worsens. So all that I want to conclude my lecture is that I'll restate my arguments. The nature of the disease is such that it disrupts the economy by definition. And this creates a big economic recession globally and even in our country. In such a recession time, it's a bounden duty of the government. Liberalize your monetary policy, liberalize your fiscal policy, increase the expenditure. But India government is very timid, is not spending enough. Therefore, it is likely that, and also it is compelling the state government to cut the expenditure. This will have a disastrous impact upon the economy. Our recession may last much longer than other countries. So much so, let me put that this way, even Bangladesh is performing better than India. According to the latest IMF statistics, Bangladesh per capita income is higher than India. In fact, all the South Asian countries, including Nepal, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, everybody is performing better than India. So it's high time the economic students and opinion makers and policy makers all say, no, change this policy, spend more, help the states, and therein lies the solution to the present crisis. Thank you very much. I will take your questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this enlightening talk on this pertinent issue and explaining how
Maninder,
see.
Maninder, one question. You
Yes,
studied in
sir.
CDS?
Sir, my husband studied at CDS under
Oh,
Professor K.
then I must have left the institute by then. When was it?
Sir, he was back in 2008 to 10.
Oh, then I was a minister. Okay, okay. So somebody told me you was in
Sir,
CDS, your husband. Okay,
I was
okay,
not that
good,
lucky. I was
good.
not that lucky.
Have you visited Kerala?
Sir, I want to. I want to. I really want to.
Please come as soon as the COVID
Yes.
declines and both you and husband come. We make us come over.
Thank you so much.
We will plan, sir. I had visited to Kerala for a conference.
Uh,
Okay, please continue. Maninder.
sir, sir, I was just thanking you for this talk on this issue and explaining how serious consequences could be of this current, if these current trends follow. So it was just like a classroom lecture. It seems like I was a student and you were the professor in the classroom. I have benefited academically a lot listening to your lecture, and I'm sure that participants must also be feeling the same way. Once again, thank you for this wonderful lecture. And sir, we have received a large number of questions from the participants. If you have time and you allow us, we can take a few questions. So my voice is coming to you.
No, I can read any message. If you put in the message box, I can read and I can respond.
Okay, sir. Sir, if the voice is audible, I can just read it out.
Yeah.
So the first question is, has the implementation of GST weakened the federal structure in India?
GST is a sound concept. It prevents cascading of the tax burden. That's a big advantage. And it makes business much more easier because uniform taxation is there in the entire country. Therefore, but it has this problem. The states lose the taxation power. Say, I told you, we are spending much more on social security, education, healthcare, and so on. Our ideal countries are Scandinavian countries, welfare countries. But welfare countries like Scandinavia, they spend around, collect by tax around 40% of the revenue, income of the people as tax. But then they give a lot of benefits to the people. I cannot aspire to be a Scandinavian country collecting 10% of my GDP, 14%. Now under GST, I can't collect more taxes. That's my autonomy in my regional development disappears. Therefore, I have been arguing that you have GST, but flexibility must be there. States must be allowed to change the rate of SGST, which does not affect other states. That has always been my argument. Secondly, I've been arguing instead of 50% for the GST, states must be given 60%. But these are not being heeded. Now the problem is that implementation has totally failed. Because, say, the IT backbone, you cannot implement GST without IT, very powerful IT network. For the simple reason, the tax, I buy a good from Punjab and bring it to Kerala. The tax I pay in Punjab will have to be transferred to Kerala. Okay, that's the principle of GST. Now, without a powerful IT backbone, you cannot do this. Now, we are still setting up the IT backbone. So the implementation has been very poor. As a result, the GST revenues have not picked up.
Sir, next question is about they're asking about your views on borrowing option provided by center to states instead of dispersing the GST share to states. Is it the borrowing option that center has given?
Yeah. So center has promised to pay compensation to the states. Now they're saying postpone the compensation. And states for compensation, they should borrow. So we have been opposing. Punjab government has taken a very strong position against this. Kerala has also taken a very strong position. We have been saying the capacity to borrow is much higher for the center, therefore they should borrow. Secondly, when center borrows, they can borrow from the state, from the Reserve Bank at a very cheap rate. If states go to borrow, they will have to pay a very high rate. See, because I had a stimulus package, I spent a lot of money in the initial months of COVID. I went to borrow nearly 6,000 crores of rupees in the first month itself. I had to pay 8.5% in interest, much higher than the market rate. So our position had been that center should borrow. These are reasons we said the capacity to borrow, the administrative ability to borrow, and also terms at which can borrow from the market is much better. And they are duty bound to borrow and give because they promised in the law. But now the central government has finally, after very strong letter, particularly from Punjab chief minister and other ministers, chief ministers, they accepted. Central will borrow and give. But they are saying we won't borrow full amount, but we will borrow part of the amount and give you now. Rest, you have to wait for 2 years. We have been protesting, but I hope the Punjab finance minister will return from his campaign and so on behalf. Then talk to him and we will have to, we cannot continue like this without borrowing. You know, we don't have money. We cannot print notes like central government or sell public sector like federal government. Therefore, we'll have to compromise. Well, we will discuss and compromise and get whatever we can and get our governments running.
Sir, next question. They are asking about, they're saying that GST clause on compensation to states for 5 years starting from 2017 is completing in 2022. What options are available to states after that?
That's one D-date. D-day, all the states are nervously looking upon after 2023. All their incomes are going to boom, fall. So my stand has been before that the rates must be revised so that such an income fall can be prevented. That's my question. My stand has always been the GST rates are not revenue neutral. And because if what is the meaning of revenue neutral? A number of state and central taxes were subsumed into GST. If you take the total tax collected before GST and after that, the new rate should be as much productive as the old rates. But unfortunately, we have cut the GST rate so sharply, it has ceased to be. Therefore, I will argue in the GST Council that they have to raise the rates. But I'm not arguing like that now because it is a recession time. Secondly, the administration is only being set up. So how do I know that the collection won't increase tomorrow when the administration is better? So I will keep my fingers crossed, look at the experience of next year, and then decide. Try to increase, tweak the rate so that a precipitous fall on the income of the state governments do not take place.
Thank you, sir. We have already taken our share of time from your busy schedule, and now time does not allow to take any more questions, as you have other commitments as well. So, without any further delay, I would invite Professor Shailendra Sidhu, Vice Principal, Multani Modi College, Patiala, for proposing the vote of thanks.
Maninder, how many students are attending this lecture?
Sir, there were around 250 students and 210 participants are still present. And so we have principals, professors, assistant professors as well from industry as well. We have some representations.
Normally, the departments in Kerala, they invite me for lecture and I lecture a lot of things. But it is the first time that somebody from North India is calling me. If Chennai and so on departments do call me. So that's out of curiosity, I accepted it. Of course, I enjoy lecturing and teaching. That's different. But anyway, thank you very much for giving this opportunity of knowing you and so on. And all of you are welcome to Kerala. It's not very difficult to spot me in Kerala. And I'm very friendly character, so you can come. Okay. So welcome to Kerala. Thank you.
Thank
Worthy Chief Guest, Mr. T.M. Thomas Isaac, Honorable Minister of Finance and Coir, Government of Kerala, Principal, Dr. Khushvinder Kumar, guests, my colleagues, and dear students. I feel greatly honored and privileged to get an opportunity to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of the management, principal, staff, and students of Multani Modi College, Patiala on this momentous occasion. It is indeed a memorable day for all Modiites when we have amongst us such a multifaceted personality, a renowned academician, and a great leader. I extend a hearty vote of thanks to the Honorable Minister, Minister Thomas Isaac, for sparing his time and delivering an extremely enlightening and informative talk on the topic COVID-19 and the state of state finances. Mr. Thomas very explicitly explained the nature of the disease and the nature of the economy. This disease has had a disruptive influence on the economy, which is increasingly integrated. There is a collapse of aggregate demand in economy, and as a result of which there is a worldwide recession. He dwelled in detail on how the governments, both central and state, can respond to the recession. Sir, we are indeed indebted to you for this brilliant talk on a contemporary topic which affects us all. Your presence in the webinar has made it more prestigious and meaningful. I convey my deep regards and hearty thanks to the Honorable Minister for gracing this occasion with his esteemed presence. I express my deep gratitude to Dr. KJ Joseph, Director, Gulati Institute of Finance and Taxation, Kerala, Dr. Jitendra Singh, Assistant Professor Economics, Center for Research in Rural and Industrial Development, Chandigarh, Shri R. Ajit Kumar, Private Assistant to the Minister of Finance, Government of Kerala, for all the help and support to arrange this webinar and getting an opportunity to listen to such an eminent scholar. I'm extremely grateful to our worthy principal, Dr. Khushvinder Kumar, for providing us such amazing occasions to interact with persons of such high repute. I thank you, sir, for all your encouragement and guidance and providing a stimulating environment during these pandemic times. I would also like to thank Professor Ved Prakash, Dr. Maninder Deep Chima, and all faculty members of the Department of Social Sciences for all their efforts in organizing this webinar, and Dr. Rohit Sachdeva for providing technical support. Finally, my gratitude to all my colleagues and students for joining this webinar. Thank you all once again.
Thank you. And Dr. Khushvinder Kumar, Principal, I'll be sending you 2 books of my recent books, of course in English, for your college library.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
I will ask Gift to mail it to you, Joseph to mail it to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That will be the pride possession for our library.
So thank you very much. So
Thank
welcome to Kerala anytime.
Of course, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay. So can
What does your
close
husband do now? Is he also lecturer?
Maninder ma'am, kindly unmute.
Maninder?
Maninder, unmute Anidara.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
He is also teaching.
Sir, who?
Your husband
Yes, sir. He is also teaching economics.
in the same college? No.
Sir, no. He is in Great Chandigarh, to which you were online last month with Finance Minister, Government of Punjab. It is in Chandigarh, sir.
And Gracie, which state are you from?
Sir, I am from Haryana, basically.
Oh. Grace is such a Malayali name. That's why I asked. Not Maninder, the student there.
Okay. Sorry.
Unmute Gracie and tell me. Unmute first.
Rohit sir, Gracie को unmute कर दीजिए.
Okay, Gracie, which state are you from?
Kindly unmute.
Yeah. No, she has muted again.
Kindly unmute me. Yes.
Which
Now.
state are you from?
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
A very good afternoon, sir.
Where are you from?
I'm from Punjab.
Punjab. No, when I read Gracie, it is such a Malayali name. I thought I will call you and ask you.
So your name is also very nice.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
and I wanted to say it was a very nice lecture, and you really look more like Rajnikant sir.
And where are you going to go for your future studies after MA? Are you going
Sorry,
to?
sir.
What are you going to do after your MA? What are you
Uh,
going to do after your MA?
So currently I'm pursuing BA. It's my first year.
And Shailendra madam, you're the head of the department?
No, sir. I'm from the Department of English.
Department of English.
Yes.
And she is the vice principal of the college.
Okay. How many of your students would go for PhD?
Sir, actually, very few students, because we are having the undergraduate program only right now in the subject of economics. Though we are having post-graduation in commerce stream only, MCOM. And many of the students from MCOM opt for research and PhD.
Now, I was also wondering how I got invited. When Shailendra madam spoke, I understood. So it must have been from that joint seminar, webinar we had on GST, Center State. I think, what was it on?
So it
Or
was on
GST, jointly with Punjab.
Sir, otherwise also you are a very prominent speaker at various national and international level debates. So
No, that Maninder isn't. That we are exciting, I know. I am not in the textbook, more at policy level. But anyway, good. Maybe sometime if I wander through Punjab, I'll drop in your college. Thank you very much. I take leave. It was very nice the time with you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Can I end the meeting now?
Yes,
Officially.
yes. Close the meeting.
Thank you all the participants.